Engelman, Dave Lochran. This is the NBA DFS Strategy Show presented by Awesemo and Super Draft. It's been a nice Super Draft. It's been a nice weekend. I was finally able to extinguish my insides after Friday's debacle. It was just not great across the board. It negatively affected my life for hours upon hours.
This is true, by the way. Josh was DMing me for from like 11:30 through 2:30, and finally, I mean, for all of this guy's intelligence, it was remarkable how ill-advised and poorly he approached this. Just absolutely remarkable. Complete empty stomach. Basically, all you had was water and capsaicin floating around in there for 3 straight hours, burning your insides apart.
Yeah, it was that chip and 60 ounces of water and coffee.
Oh my God. Unbelievable.
I felt like I can only imagine what getting shot in the stomach feels like. That's how I felt for 90 minutes. Huh? Yeah. Until I got to Burger King and got that milkshake, and it was just like, that's what I needed.
Yeah. My stomach hurt a bit, but not. When I walked up the steps before I ate the chip, I chugged probably 16 ounces of milk.
Yeah. No, not me. Not me.
No, not you at all.
I went a different direction.
We're back.
It was bad, man. It was so bad. Eating the chip itself was like child's play.
Nothing compared to that.
No. I was just like, oh, this is hot.
Well, definitely glad you guys could enjoy that with us. It was a fun experience.
Yeah, I will never make that bet again. And if I do, I will certainly eat something for breakfast first.
I would do it again if I had food in my stomach.
I'd just be so scared. It immediately made me think like, do I have a small ulcer? It was excruciating. And then somebody was just like, McDonald's milkshakes. This was somebody on Twitter, I believe. McDonald's milkshakes are so much better. I was like, Burger King was the closest place, and I was afraid to be in the car.
Yeah, you don't care.
No, look, if I walked out of my front door and there was like a homeless man selling milkshakes on the street, he would have got my business. Yeah.
Yeah. Chick-fil-A milkshakes are the best.
I was afraid to ruin my car. So I was in no position to be like choosy about my milkshake. It was speed and speed only. I mean, I drank a large vanilla milkshake in, I don't know, 3 minutes.
Oh, I believe it. I bet you almost immediately felt better.
It helped tremendously. I also threw on 2 additional double cheeseburgers just to really soak it all up.
By the way, I didn't have any burning on the way out. I thought I would.
So did I. Nothing outside the norm for me. I did avoid hot sauce for a couple days, and my wife still did not make that chili, thank God.
Oh, God. Yeah, no thanks.
Yeah, I had to be like, sweetheart, today it's not going to be a chilly day.
No thanks. But yeah, this mustache bet looks not good for you, or does not look good for you, with Ben Simmons seemingly having a pretty serious injury.
Yeah, it's like 90-10, so if they drop the next one, I'm going to get pampered.
Josh has decided that he's going to go get a hot shave and have someone shave it for him. I told him he has to live stream it. Like, he doesn't have to do it on this show, but he's got to document something, whether it's Periscope or whatever. We have to see some proof of it all going down.
I'll take a picture or two while I'm laying in the chair, wrapped up, drinking lavender tea or some nonsense. It'll be great. Stop me if you've heard this one before. Alex Baker won $100,000 on Draftkings last night.
Not going to stop you.
Yeah, that's fair. The $350K prize pool Mega 8s, $100K to first, taken down by Awesemo himself. We'll get into the lineup in a second. Chalk plays war, Eric Paschal, who disappointed. Alex came in quite a bit under the field. Jordan McLaughlin, who I touted earlier in the morning, went for 8.8x, 38 fantasy points. Alex had him in 100% of his 13 lineups.
Whoa.
Only 13. That's the max you could put into this contest, but he had him in 100%. He also had 100% Daniel Gafford, who only went for 15 fantasy points, 4.3x. So he was able to overcome the Daniel Gafford bagel, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, that Bulls team, and I get why he did it. Bulls is unbelievably shorthanded. They're down so many players right now that Gafford and Felicio have to get minutes.
It didn't hurt Alex at all to have, let's see, 69.2% CJ McCollum, who dropped 76.25 DraftKings points last night.
Yep, monster game.
Yeah.
What was he owned? Because he did jump over 8K.
So in this contest, 36%.
Okay.
But again,
DraftKings really
tight at the top.
DraftKings really screwed that pricing up.
Yeah. Turns out they didn't.
No. I'm saying the couple days ago.
Yeah, when he was 6,600.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, imagine if he drops that 76 burger there. He still went for 9.1x, 15 of 30 from the field, 6 of 11 from 3, 12 assists, 1 rebound shy of a triple-double, and only 1 turnover in 43 minutes. That is an incredible game.
Yeah, very, very good.
Yeah.
And wait, is that still McCollum you're on?
Yeah.
Yeah, he helped bring them back. They almost lost at home to the Detroit Pistons. Like that was very, very close.
Yeah.
I was paying very close attention because I don't play DFS much on the weekends because I have to do the serious show. And
that's not why I don't do it, but I don't do it
either.
I
mean, if you were doing it, you wouldn't have time to do, like, I can't adjust for news with, Yeah. But I had money on the under in that one and paying attention very closely towards the end of the day. Swept the board yesterday, 4-0, went 5-0 on Saturday. So we were in business, Josh. But either way, it was amazing how many shots were missed, yet still how good of a game McCollum had. And credit to Christian Wood. This kid looks, I mean, he's been in the league a few years now, but man, he is really impressed. And no team has ever really given him a legitimate chance.
Yeah.
He's gotten backup minutes when players are hurt, but never really gotten a chance. He's been in the league since 2015. Man, he's played really well.
Absolutely. Dropped 44 fantasy points yesterday. $7,400 price tag now.
Yeah, not saying he was great value for you,
he's
but
still 6x. I mean, he's been 40, 37, 48, 41, 52. I mean, this guy builds the stat sheet.
Consistent, yeah.
Yeah. Now, keep in mind, every single one of those games has been a loss. So.
Oh yeah, no question. But all those games were losses with Drummond too.
Oh yeah. I mean, look, they're not very good. I don't know what to make of Christian Wood. He should probably be a backup center on some squad, but
yeah, I mean, more than getting DNPs.
Yeah, agreed. There's a middle ground there, you would think.
Also, what do you make? I guess we can wait till we get to that game because Cleveland's on the slate. I was going to ask you what you make of Drummond because it seems like at this rate, Bickerstaff is pretty intent on just playing him for low minutes, whether it's a close game or a blowout.
Yeah, we will definitely get to that, and we will get to it first. But first, we need to talk a little bit about Super Draft.
Super Draft.
I really enjoy doing that.
Oh, it's great.
It's
great.
Fun. It's fun.
I want to be able to log on with the volume up on my computer and hear that.
Yeah.
That would push him over the top, I think.
I agree. Guys, you should go to superdraft.io and use the promo code AWESOMO to get yourself $20 in super cash on your first $100 deposit. You don't have to worry about salaries. Each player gets a point multiplier, and you could roster whoever you want. No roster construction issues other than just a couple guards, 3 forwards, and a center. It's that easy. You don't have to get super weird about making sure you fit your $3,700 guy in so you can pay up for another stud. You just get whatever you want. They're running great contests every night. We're seeing some overlay from time to time, which is another benefit in your direction. Anytime that you can either lower the rake or pay no rake, that's a major benefit. Tonight, they're running the $20,000 jump shot, 4K to first. They need 1,900 entries to fill, so we'll be keeping a close eye on that, plugging it pretty hard during Live Before Lock as well. But you guys should go there, superdraft.io, promo code AWESOMO. Get yourself $20 in super cash on your first $100 deposit. But also, sign up at AWESOMO. Go to awesemo.com/join. Use the promo code NBA Strategy. One big word. You get yourself 50% off your first week of Awesemo Plus. We're covering everything these days. NBA, NHL, MMA, NASCAR, golf, soccer, sports betting content. We have
Cricket.
XFL add-on packages, tennis, MLB starting soon. Now's the time to get in, guys. NBA Strategy is the promo code. 8 games. I woke up today not knowing how many games we had. Got a little nervous when I started seeing how many 7 o'clock games there were. I was like, I'm not in the mood to do rotations on a 12-gamer. And got bailed out.
It's a brutal experience.
It's really not fun. So I'm ready to dive in if you are.
Let's do it, baby.
Here we go. Cleveland Cavaliers, Miami Heat. Heat 6-point favorites on the road against Cleveland. You wanted to talk Andre Drummond. Well, now you get your wish. Looking at ownership, Kevin Porter in double digits on DraftKings at 11%. No one else is in double digits. I only have Darius Garland in my DraftKings player pool. Drummond, Love, and Sexton making the Fanduel one, but not by a lot. 6K Kevin Love on Fanduel definitely needs to be at least looked at a little bit. I'm not interested in Drummond. I'm not interested in Tristan Thompson. I have no idea what they're doing with this rotation. Doesn't seem like either one of those guys are going to end up happy in the next month and a half. But talk to me, man. What do you want to do with Drummond?
I'll be honest with you. I don't even know if I have much interest in Kevin Love, even at that price point. I get where you're coming from for sure. But how can I project the guy for more than 26, 27 minutes? I guess you can, but there are some serious concerns here. He played 26 minutes against the Clippers. It was a blowout, though. But then here's the big one. 23 minutes against Washington. And when you look at that game, that was on the 21st. And we can break this down because there's no doubt we're going to learn a decent amount from looking at these rotations, whether they were close or not. When you look at that game against Washington, Kevin Love did not see a single second in the fourth quarter. Now, he missed that game with the Achilles.
Yeah.
I just don't know if I don't think that had anything to do with the injury, though. I think it was because it was the second game of a back-to-back and he sat out. So if that's the case, right? If that's the case, are we to believe that Kevin Love is similar to Andre Drummond, only going to play, 23 to 25 minutes? And if that's the case, I have some serious concerns. Drummond last time out did not play in the fourth quarter. Like I said, that game was on the 22nd, second of a back-to-back. Love was out, and Drummond still only played that much, while Tristan Thompson off the bench played 26 minutes, all of the backup center run. And then the game prior to that, the first leg of a back-to-back, Kevin Love played in the first half. He played 9, 10, 11, 12, like 14 minutes. And then he played a decent amount in the third quarter, never returned in the fourth quarter in a close game. And the same can be said for Drummond. And that I do not like. Is it just that Bickerstaff liked what he saw from, did he like what he saw from Nance and from Thompson? It's possible, but it's still concerning that he's so willing in a competitive game. By the way, that Cleveland came back from, that might be the reason, they came back and won that. I just don't like that there is no locked in rotations at all for your starters. Well, at least your veteran starters.
Yeah. I really, really don't know what to make of this team. Like, DraftKings makes it easy. You're just not going to pay $7,100 for Kevin Love no matter what. When it's 6K, it's just like, okay, well, what if he does get those 30 minutes, It's at least worth the look, especially at a power forward spot. But ultimately, I just don't want anything from Cleveland. This is a terrible matchup. 107 implied total, like second lowest on the slate. I'm just not interested in anything here.
I don't like anyone. Like you said, DraftKings makes it a lot easier to just get away from him. Colin Sexton's been a guy that I'll be willing to take a look at in better spots. Yeah. I think he's going to continue to see big minutes regardless of score. We saw that against Miami the other day. We saw that against Atlanta. And you're going to get high enough usage, at least team leading usage from him. But I don't want him here against Miami. This is not a team that I have much interest in whatsoever. You mentioned that Garland is the only one in your player pool. I get it. his minutes are very stable as another young guard, but that's far from a priority option here. There's nobody on Cleveland that you're jamming in the lineup.
No, like Garland's ranked 39th. I mean, there's a decent chance I don't even get him. But he's at least available to show up. Miami, on the other hand, I'm going to be getting some bodies. So no Jimmy Butler, no Tyler Hero, no Myers Leonard. Bam, none, Dragic, Duncan Robinson. I'm really excited to get into that baseball dude's name. From
oh my God. Giggly Chigglytron?
Yeah, I don't. What was it really? So now I have to do this.
I told you I'm just going to start calling him Giggle Kunk.
Yeah, I laughed at that.
Jagilica or something? Katilicha?
It's Gili Gilau Gongquan. Yeah, that's exactly how I'm going to pronounce it. Yeah, that dude needs a nickname stat. But anyway, nobody's here for
that's crazy
ridiculous pronunciations from the two of us. Miami ownership: Bam, none, Dragic, Duncan Robinson, Jay Crowder, Derek Jones, all in double digits on FanDuel, basically in the 10 to 20% range. Bam, none, Robinson, and Olynyk in double digits on DK. Olynyk 3,700. Kind of a good spot considering Cleveland is just chock full of big men. Might be a decent Kelly Olynyk day. I love Kendrick Nunn on FanDuel. 4,700, $900 cheaper than he is on DK. One of my favorite plays of the day. My top point guard option for right now, just because of value. No issues getting to Bam for 8,600. I would say Dragic is my third favorite play here at 5,500, but I see myself rotating through a lot of these Heat guys against a really bad Cleveland team.
For sure. And here's something to consider too. This line opened at only 5.5 points. So that's kind of weird. It's a good thing though, if you're looking at Miami hoping that they can keep this, game remotely competitive. You already mentioned Jimmy Butler being out. It's at 6 points now, but still, I feel a lot better about that. I also, don't have any faith that Cleveland wins this. Miami has played worse on the road by a wide margin, but still, getting 6 points here is going to make it a little bit more appealing. I guess we can start with Kelly Olynyk. He's been a thorn in my side all season long. Around that time where he was playing, remember 30 minutes or 13 minutes?
Yeah.
And it was just so tough to get him right. But
I never did.
No, me neither. If he's going to get another start, then it makes him well worth considering. From a usage perspective, you're not going to get Olynyk jacking up 20 shots. It's not going to happen. But he's the type of player that can get hot from 3-point range. Hopefully he can do a better job rebounding. That's a big if. But when you're looking at his price point, it all comes down to where he's at. $3,700 on Draftkings is just too cheap in a matchup against a Cleveland team that's tied for the worst defense in the league. Yes, they play at a slower pace, but this game still has a 223.5 total, and I'm not too worried about that. So Kelly Olynyk absolutely in play. Outside of Kelly Olynyk, though, on DraftKings, because you mentioned Kendrick Nunn on FanDuel, I asked a question I have, and I'll throw it back to you. When you take a look at $6,000 Goran Dragic, if it's close, you're getting 30 minutes from him, maybe 31. Kendrick Nunn, I think he's in for more minutes regardless with Butler out, and I feel good about that. Very scoring dependent. Don't expect him to repeat that 8-assist game in this second of a home and home. What are you doing with their price points on DraftKings where Dragic is $6K and Nunn is $5,600?
I have them as essential equals. They're both projected for basically 10% ownership. I've got Nunn ranked 19th. I've got Dragic ranked 22nd. So they might as well be the exact same person. Just have Nunn getting a couple extra minutes to make up for the fact that he is significantly worse on a permanent basis.
Right.
Nobody really stands out on DK. I would say like Olynyk is probably my favorite option there, but if the ownership's already there, I'm not too wild about it. So it'll be like, I see these guys as mostly like 5 to 10%ers on DK, but if Kendrick Nunn really is 22% owned on FanDuel, I'm going to have significantly more.
Duncan Robinson's $5,000. you know that he's the type of guy that can light it up from beyond the arc. He can also disappear because he's the type of guy that can light it up from beyond the arc. He's attempted double-digit 3-pointers in 4 of his last 5 games and 5 of his last 7. In the games where he didn't attempt double-digit threes, he attempted 9 and 8. So that makes him an interesting play as a 43.5% 3-point shooter on the season. Given that Jimmy Butler is going to be out of this one, I think it is a price point that becomes a little bit more difficult to pay because, like several players on this team, several guards on this team at least, he is scoring dependent. Like, you're definitely getting somebody that in the event he only shoots 2 of 10 for 3, it's very unlikely that you're going to feel good about the final result. But also, by the way, what do you think his usage is with Jimmy Butler off the floor this year?
Nuns?
Yeah, no, sorry, Duncan Robinson.
Off the floor?
With Butler off the floor, yeah. 560 some minutes.
17%.
14%. I mean, that is extremely low.
Yeah. Yeah, not great.
Extremely low. He has been getting, like I said, double-digit threes up, so that's cool, but 0.68 fantasy points per minute over that stretch, 8% assist rate, 6% rebounding rate. That's likely a spot that I end up staying away from. I don't think the upside justifies the floor when it comes to Duncan Robinson.
I'm with you there. Like, I have him ranked 28th on DraftKings. He's a 5 to 10% guy for me.
Yeah, and that's fine because, look, if he does go off and knock down 8 threes and he gets you 40 fantasy points, all right, but also very possible that he doesn't and he finishes with 23 fantasy points.
Yes, sir. Favorite play in this game?
It's gotta be Olynyk and Nunn. I'd say they're somewhat interchangeable, but on DraftKings for me, and I know you'll give me your favorite play on Fanduel,
sure.
But DraftKings, I'm gonna go with Kelly Olynyk. I still think he's too cheap.
It's fair. I'm with you on that DK pick. For me, it's Nunn, Bam Adebayo, a close second.
Yeah, Bam Adebayo is more than reasonable option across the board. $8,500 on DraftKings, but still, if you're looking for some type of value on or on an 8-game slate, Olynyk very much in play. Do you have faith that Adebayo? Now, you know what? I'm not worried about minutes at all. 86 on FanDuel, 85 on DraftKings. That's going to put him firmly in play. Yeah.
On to my least favorite team in basketball.
Here we go.
Philadelphia 76ers.
I thought you were a fan.
8-point favorites at home against the lowly Atlanta Hawks. So Ben Simmons out, I guess, indefinitely right now. Back issues.
His sister tweeted something, quote tweeted, something that he was going to undergo further testing. And she's like, this is about way more than basketball. I don't know if that's worth reading into, but this might be a serious back injury.
Maybe there's something stuck in his back that makes him not shoot threes.
I'm going to go ahead and say that's a conspiracy theory.
You never know, man. You never know. Not only is Ben Simmons out, Tobias Harris doubtful as well. Right. So this team fixing to get pretty grimy, but gonna have to play a lot of them. This is a pace-up spot for Philly. Atlanta's defense is terrible. Joel Embiid is $10K on FanDuel and an absolute ridiculous $9,500 on DK. Both of those prices are crazy. Love him. Number 2 contender for today. Actually, number 1 contender for today. Number 2 contender is $5,100 on FanDuel, $4,800 on DraftKings. Josh Richardson. Embiid, by the way, 26 to 30% owned. Richardson, 20 to 25. I want to have way more than both of those numbers. Al Horford is 40% owned, $4,900 on FanDuel, $4,500 on DK. Nobody else getting any real love. Maybe a little bit of Glenn Robinson, maybe a little Burks or Korkmaz. Let's start with the big guys. And by big guys, I mean like the real players. Embiid, Richardson, Horford. Floor is yours, man. What do you want to do with Philly today?
So I'll tell you something. Joel Embiid's very good against bad teams. And a lot of times he collapses against good teams, better defenses. We saw it against Toronto. We've seen it against Milwaukee. Although to be fair, he's had some pretty monster games against the Bucks. But against the Atlanta Hawks, I don't see any reason to get away from him at this price point. That includes Draftkings, by the way. Or I'm sorry, FanDuel. 10,000 on FanDuel is still a very, very palatable price with Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris off the floor. So on the season, Joel Embiid has played. You know what? Let me run this back. Let me run this back towards the start of last season. Okay,
sure.
Run this back since the start of last season and see what we get with Simmons and Harris off the floor. Joel Embiid has a 38%.
You should probably take Butler
rate.
off too.
I guess we could do that. Sure. Take Butler off the floor. Played 701 minutes. All right, it's exactly the same. So 38% usage, 25% assist rate. That is noteworthy. 21% rebound rate and 1.62 fantasy points per minute. Keep in mind, the Sixers can no longer drag their feet in any game. And we saw this very much illustrated against Brooklyn. They had no Ben Simmons, and they needed to get a win. They brought it to overtime. Joel Embiid played 41 minutes, right? 36 of which came in regulation. So I don't see, unless this game gets out of hand very early, I don't see Joel Embiid playing less than 34, 33 minutes tonight, which just makes him that much more appealing.
It feels like a game where he goes for like 28 and 14, but in 26 minutes because they beat him by 70.
Right. So that's the thing. If they beat them by that much, then sure, he comes off. If this game even a little bit competitive, Joel Embiid's minutes are going to be there. They can no longer afford to drop games to bad teams. They just can't.
Well, luckily this one's at home, so they should be fine.
26-2. It is crazy, isn't it?
It's something. It's something. So we're in agreement. We're fully smashing Embiid, right?
Yes.
Would you be fully smashing Josh Richardson as well?
Yes.
I agree.
Josh, dude, let me tell you something. I'm in my man cave. I've got two TVs on the wall next to each other, right? And I had Wilder Fury. I don't know if you'd even call it an undercard. There's just awful boxing prior to that fight. That was on, and I had the Sixers game on. I had the Sixers game on the TV with volume, and I switched it over because it was so disgraceful. Yeah. What I mean by that, they were jacking up three-pointers consistently, not even touching the rim, right?
Yeah.
Al Horford bricked like 5 in a row, but Josh Richardson was just shooting so miserably on wide open opportunities. I don't know what the deal is with this team. I do know this. It's Atlanta. It's a pace-up spot. It's a bottom 5 defense on the season. You don't really have much of an option other than to go and roster Josh Richardson at a high clip. You really don't.
No. I gave him 34 minutes. He's basically $5K on both sites. He's $14 on Yahoo. Like, just play him. Play him more than he's owned for sure, at least right now. I expect those numbers to go up, but I love it. I love him. I love Embiid. I don't think I need 40% owned Al Horford.
No, you don't. By the way, Richardson, 1.05 DraftKings points per minute, 27% usage, 22% assists with Simmons and Harris off the floor. Yeah. At his price, that's pretty solid. With Al Horford, dude, I don't know what to make of him right now. He played 19 minutes in that game against Brooklyn. He looks like a shell of his former self. Really it's does. Bad.
Yeah.
I mean, it is really bad. Not only that, but defensively, I was watching him let guys like Wilson Chandler walk around him and lay it in just without even attempting to make a defensive play on these guys. I wish I could tell you what the deal is with Al Horford, but the truth is I have no idea. And if you look at his rotation in the last game, he played considerable minutes in the first quarter, but that's because Brett Brown went with hockey line changes after 4 minutes and 43 seconds. Glenn Robinson, Richardson, Embiid, and Simmons, who got hurt, all came off the floor. And Al Horford played a long stretch. And his second, here's what's weird. His second half rotation, Korkmaz started and played 34 seconds. And then Al Horford came in. So I'm going to I don't know what Brett Brown's going to do, Josh.
I don't think Brett Brown does.
Line. Yeah, no, he does. So let's do this. Let's talk about who we know is going to start, and then how we think it's going to be worked around them.
So we obviously Embiid and Richardson.
Correct. So we know those two guys are going to start.
Yeah.
Then what?
I would expect Neto.
Glenn Robinson.
I would expect Neto.
Okay.
And probably Korkmaz.
So the weird thing is how Neto didn't play until blowout run last game.
Yeah.
And then he started the game before that.
Right. It's weird. It's weird.
I think Alec Burks is needed off the bench.
Agreed.
Glenn Robinson probably starts.
You would think.
So let's just say that's 3. I guess you can say Neto. The weird thing is Shake Milton went from a DNP to getting, the backup point guard run backup shooting guard run last time out. I don't know.
Yeah. We're going to, I mean, the good news is we'll have this lineup.
Yeah. The question, right. I'm just trying to decipher whether or not it's even worth thinking about.
Sure.
The big one is, does Al Horford start next to Embiid? I would say he probably doesn't.
I would agree. I don't expect him to. So what do you want to do? Like, I like Burks. I gave him 24 minutes. He's 4K on FanDuel. I think that's worth giving it a shot. I like Korkmaz, 3,900 on FanDuel, 4K on DraftKings, not getting any ownership. Those would be the two guys that I think feel pretty good. Like, I feel pretty good about them playing 24 minutes or more in this scenario.
I like Burks quite a bit on FanDuel.
Yeah.
Quite a bit.
9% ownership. I think that's shockingly low.
It is. DraftKings 4,900. If I'm giving him 24 minutes or so, I can pass on that.
Right. I can't see a scenario where I'm going to be really excited to get Glenn Robinson, but 3,200 on DraftKings, he needs to at least be looked at, especially if he starts.
Sure. Neto, I have no interest in at all.
I agree. Even if I know that he's starting, it's probably not a guy I'm going to.
Even if he does get the minutes, no, I'm sorry. If he starts, it is Atlanta we're talking about.
It's true.
I suppose you could do worse, but he's definitely not a premier value option. But yeah, if you ended up getting 28 minutes from him, you could do worse than Neto for sure. I'd honestly rather have Neto at 38 over Burks at 49, but that's not saying much.
Yeah. And even if I knew Neto was starting, I would assume that I would rather have Burks at 4K on FanDuel than Neto at 35.
Right. I mean, really, ultimately, Joel Embiid is one of the best plays on the slate overall. And outside of that, him and Richardson, outside of those two, you're pretty much throwing darts.
Agreed.
At least this early in the day.
I hope that Horford's ownership stays at 40. I'd like to come in less than that.
I don't know why you would really want to get heavy exposure to Horford at this point. He's been dreadful. All right, fine. He's going to have a game or two where he plays well. We can both agree with that.
Sure.
I don't see how you can look at him and say, even without Simmons and Harris, that it's a great idea. You know what? Let's actually work through this.
Okay.
Tobias Harris being doubtful is going to open things up.
Yes.
But here's the issue that I have. Brett Brown seems intent now on just not playing Horford with Embiid for much more than 8-7 minutes a game.
To be fair, he probably shouldn't.
No. He absolutely shouldn't. I wouldn't want to do that either. But what I'm saying is, if that's the case, and he doesn't want to run him heavily alongside Embiid, how many additional minutes is Horford actually going to get?
I gave him 27 total.
Right. I have him at 27 as well.
Smart men.
But what I'm saying is, if that's the case, you can't be projecting him to soak up all of Harris, not all, but like a majority or a lot of Harris's minutes, unless Brett Brown is willing to run him heavily alongside Joel Embiid.
Exactly. I want to see how much they've played in this scenario this year. Okay, so they don't even have any. Embiid and Horford on, Harris and Simmons both off, only 56 possessions this year. Nothing really to glean. Negative 14.8. It's wild. I'm going to just take Ben off since I think Harris at least fits a little bit better. Still 81. Wow. Oh, wait, no, I did that backwards. Let's leave Ben off and put Tobias Harris back on. Minus 16 and 141 possessions with Ben Simmons off and Embiid and Horford on. Yeah, it's just not good. Not good.
Nope.
Let's go to Atlanta. 9,600 on Fanduel, 10-6 on Draftkings. That's Trae Young. Happy to pay up for him on Fanduel at 9,600. 13% owned. That is the only ownership on Atlanta in double digits. I do want to circle back.
Can you keep talking for a second? I got to sign for a package.
Absolutely. Yeah. This I've seen those videos before. I do want to circle back to Joel Embiid on Superdraft. Joel Embiid has a 1.15 multiplier. I have him projected for 63 Superdraft points at that point. He's going to be one of your best options. But going to Atlanta, this is more of a FanDuel thing. I only have Trae Young in my DraftKings player pool. He's 48th. But on FanDuel, I'd like to get to a little bit of Trae Young. Primary ball handlers do pretty well against Philly. Then we've got John Collins and Kevin Huerter. I would prefer Huerter a little bit, but he's still like my 11th shooting guard. So, these are 5 to 10% guys. 4,900 for Huerter, 8,300 for John Collins. Could be seeing a decent amount of Al Horford, which is really probably not going to be good for him. Ultimately, I just don't really want to get to a lot of Atlanta. As long as Embiid is in there, and Horford as well, but as long as Embiid is in there, this is still going to be a really solid defense. They've been 5% better than average on a per possession basis over their last 15 games. I just have a hard time wanting to get to the Hawks. 107 implied total matches the Cleveland Cavaliers for today. So think about that for a second. Talk to me about the Hawks.
All right. Well, I don't really have a ton to say about him. What I can tell you is this much. Trae Young's very expensive. He's also phenomenal. You and I, maybe no, it was Adam and I had this conversation. I remember asking him, I was like, because we talked about him being expensive against Miami. I said, all right, where should he be priced compared to Harden and Westbrook right now? Right. I think that's a question worth asking.
Sure.
I'll ask you the same thing. Where should he be priced in respect or in relation to guys like Giannis and Westbrook and Harden, knowing that even let me just use game logs for a second to give you an idea of what we've seen from him. Over his last 10, he has a 77, a 65, a 74, a 71. So we know that the ceiling is there.
Yeah.
Is he good enough right now, given that he's playing upwards of 40 minutes in regulation, which he's done in back-to-back games? Is he good enough to be at a mid to high 10K price point and rostered, especially on a night where Ben Simmons, easily their best guard defender, who, in my opinion, should be top 3 in voting for Defensive Player of the Year, is sidelined?
Yeah. I've got him a step behind Harden and Luka today. More on the Russell Westbrook, Kawhi Leonard tier.
Okay, so I have him higher than that. And the only reason for this being, number one, I do think Ben Simmons being out really plays a huge role in their struggles. We saw against Brooklyn, guys like Karis LeVert just go on a actually, what did he didn't shoot well, but he still had 25 points. I thought it was him or Dinwiddie. Didn't one of them have a solid shooting game? Dinwiddie 7, I guess not, maybe not, but All right, so let me take that back. Still makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And I don't see Philly winning this one that easy. I know there was an 8.5, they were laying 8 or 8.5 points, but I just don't see it being that easy for them. If it's close and you're getting 40 minutes from Trae Young, I like that. The one other deciding factor or determining factor that does come into play for me is when it comes to Harden, we talk about we don't like to bake like blowouts into projections and stuff.
Yeah.
I am today with the Houston Rockets. I can't give him the same 38 minutes that I've been projecting him for. I just feel very uncomfortable with that. They're 14.5-point favorites. They're knocking down threes at an incredible rate right now and running opposing teams off the floor, including Utah in their own gym. I can't in good faith give him 38 minutes. So that's why I think Trae Young is closer to these guys than he normally would be.
Yeah, that's totally fair. 10-6 is just more than I want to spend on DraftKings. Like, I just greatly prefer Giannis, Harden, Luka, and Embiid. And at that point, I'm already into like my fifth guy. So
and I'm with you. Believe it or not, I like Trae Young over James Harden today.
Okay.
Now, that probably seems crazy to a lot of people, and maybe it is, but would you be shocked if James Harden played 31 minutes?
No, not at all.
And he could go off. He could still have a huge game in 31 minutes. Like against Golden State, he played 30, still had 60 fantasy points. So it's more than doable. I shouldn't say. So how many minutes are you giving Trae Young? Let me ask you that.
36.
Okay. So I have him at 37, which is probably why he profiles a bit better for me than you.
Sure.
But yeah, outside of that, I think if this game is competitive, he should go off and have a solid game. I do like Giannis over Trae Young now. And obviously Embiid at his price is ridiculous.
Anybody else from Atlanta for you?
John Collins coming off a monster game. Absolute monster game. He does that once in a while.
He certainly does.
I absolutely don't see him doing it today.
His previous monster I actually got right. That was nice.
Against the Knicks?
I don't know when it was.
I'm looking at it now, yeah. I don't want to pay upwards of almost $9,000 for John Collins today. I think that's a bit prohibitive.
I agree. I think we could put this Philly Atlanta game to bed.
Yeah, it's a very interesting game though on both sides, really.
One more 7:00 start. Washington Wizards, Milwaukee Bucks. Wizards 114. Implied total Bucks 126.5. That is the highest implied total of the slate. We'll start on the Washington side. This game is going to be really fast, really up and down, really bad for Washington. It
won't end well.
So we got Bradley Beal at 13% ownership on FanDuel. We've got Davis Bertans at 10% on DK. Nobody else in double digits. Highest ranked guy I have on DK for the Wiz, Ish Smith at 43rd. I don't really have Beal, Bertans, or Ish ranked all that well on FanDuel. I don't expect to have Washington Wizards today. The floor is yours.
No, we'll get to Milwaukee in a second. I don't see it being the case either. I guess the question is, if you're looking towards them, who do you feel even remotely confident in? Because like Rui Hachimura, not getting there, not at his price point at least.
No.
Thomas Bryant's cheap, but what should we be expecting from him in terms of minutes? I have no idea. I'm giving him 16 minutes today.
Yeah, I don't think that you can project any one of their centers for anything of value.
Right. It's a wasteland. Yeah, they just cannibalize each other, and I have no idea how Scott Brooks is going to approach them. Bradley Beal is the one guy that what's it? Let me find. Do you have his ownership pulled up?
Beal 13 on FanDuel, 4 on DraftKings.
I think at 4 on DraftKings, it's not crazy, but here's the problem. We're only 3 games in, and we've already talked about like several high-priced players that intrigue us. How can you prioritize Beal?
You can't.
The Milwaukee Bucks, the one thing that makes Beal very interesting in a spot like this is their one weakness is they've struggled to contain opposing three-point shooters. Opponents have a top 10 3-point percentage against them on the season, but no team is allowing more 3-point attempts to their opponents or more made 3-pointers to their opponents than the Bucks. That's the one spot where you can see a considerable amount of upside. And then you factor in that the Milwaukee Bucks lead the league in pace of play at a ridiculous 105.4 possessions per 48. They also have the best defense by a wide margin. But like you said, to kick this game off, there are going to be a lot of points. It has a 241 over-under. It's the highest on this slate by more than 5 points. Is that enough to get Beal into lineups, or is it tough because his price is up there with a lot of other really good plays against better matchups?
Sorry, I just took a sip of coffee right when you were kicking that to me. Oh God,
it's a tough one with Beal. It really is, especially if you like.
He's been playing so well too.
Yeah, and let me ask you this: stacking. I'll start with a statement, finish with a question. Stacking is not something in basketball that is necessary.
Correct.
But if you're playing, say you're playing Giannis, and we'll get to Lopez and we'll get to, whatever, someone else from Milwaukee on the road, 12.5-point favorites. Do you think there's sense in running it back with Beal? Because we know that this team, we know that Mike Budenholzer will, sit his players in an uncompetitive game, and he'll do it pretty quickly. So is there a method to your madness in saying, I'll roster Beal in this spot, because if this game does stay close, he's going to be the reason why. If I do get 33, 34 minutes from Giannis, Beal is going to be the reason why.
I would say it makes more sense on FanDuel than it does on DraftKings. Because of the roster freedom, I think you just kind of need to hit the nuts a bit more on DK. Yeah. Where on FanDuel,
Beal's only 8,700.
Right. It's really easy on FanDuel to be like, okay, I'm going to get Beal at shooting guard. I'm going to get Giannis at small forward and start building around that. So I'd be more likely to do that on FanDuel.
Okay.
I don't really have any other interest in Washington.
And by the way, we've seen this stuff happen, for instance, with Minnesota and Boston just a couple of days ago, right?
Yeah.
Up until the final couple minutes of that game, it was very close.
Yeah.
And you ended up getting some big performances from the Timberwolves. They presumably would have played a lot of minutes anyway because they didn't, they were down a bunch of guys, but still, sometimes that does work out. For me, it is Bradley Beal as just somebody in tournaments. If he's going to be 4% owned, it could be really interesting. Ish Smith is fine. He's where do you have him ranked?
43rd on DK.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah.
And if he plays 30 minutes, maybe he'll be okay. He's less than a per minute guy, but not too far down. He's the definition of like a tertiary option that if you get 5 or 10% of him, you're like, okay, maybe this game stays close. Maybe he plays 30 minutes. Milwaukee's interesting though.
That they are. Giannis.
Hold on a second. I have to do this to you. Eric
you gotta
Johnson,
go sign for another package?
One of our premium subs said it's Lafayette. It's an Ish Smith revenge game. Well, as I've tweeted before, every game is a revenge game for Ish Smith. Houston, Memphis, Golden State, Orlando, Milwaukee, Phoenix, OKC, Philadelphia, New Orleans Pelicans, Detroit Pistons. I don't have enough fingers to count the next team, Washington Wizards. He's played on 11 teams in 10 years.
Should have whipped out the dong for number 11.
That's a lot of teams, Josh. That's crazy.
It really is. So I'm not really worried about that Ish Smith narrative. I am worried about 11.
Oh, you're not?
No, 11-8 on FanDuel, 11-4 on DK, a 1x multiplier on Super Draft. I like Giannis clear across the board. I have him in for 32 minutes. He went bananas Friday night. And that was Friday night, right?
BANANAS.
Yes. Straight nanners. 30% owned on FanDuel, 22% on DK. On FanDuel, it's tough just because of the small forward position. I love him there. I like Chris Middleton a little bit on FanDuel, nothing too crazy. He's getting 20% ownership. That seems a little high. I'd rather get to Eric Bledsoe, 6,100 on FanDuel. I only gave him 28 minutes rather. He's at 17% ownership. But Robin Lopez, flat min on DK. Brooke Lopez is out for today. Do you think Robin Lopez gets enough minutes on DraftKings to be viable? He's at 16% ownership.
He's my top value play on the slate. Yes. The answer to that is a resounding, or I'm sorry. Second. We'll get to the other guy shortly.
Sure. I gave him 18 minutes.
I gave him 25.
Okay.
I'll give you my reasoning for it.
Go for it. Yeah, that's what the show is for now.
Okay, so
no, hold that one back, man.
We'll hit on it next show.
Yeah.
He played 24 minutes in the last game that Brook Lopez missed.
Okay.
And that game was at one point 44-point game. 44-point game against the Charlotte Hornets. He played 24 minutes. If you run it back to the game now, the game before that, he played, let me pull it up here, because Brook Lopez missed 2 games in a row. And the first one, like I said, monster blowout. At no point was this competitive. What about the next one against the Knicks? Also not even remotely competitive. He did not play. He played 23 minutes, but he came out 4.5 minutes into the third quarter because they were up by 40 points against New York. And then he returned for a couple minutes in the fourth. If we're going off the assumption that the 2 games he's missed or the 2 games that Brook Lopez missed, that Robin Lopez benefited considerably from them, even though they got out of hand, then I have definite interest here. And I don't think you're going to see like Marvin Williams getting minutes at the 5 in this spot.
Okay.
Or I do. I'm sorry. But I'm sorry. I don't think you're going to see him taking away minutes from Robin Lopez.
Sure. That was about to be my caveat of those examples did not have Marvin Williams on the Bucks. Look,
I knew exactly where you were going with it.
I know. I would have preferred to get there without you.
Come on, man.
Stopping me.
I'm better than that. But here's the thing, though. Why? Why I did not miss that. Why I don't see why we're assuming that things would change that much. I mean, against Detroit the other day, where Giannis doubled in 9 minutes, Marvin Williams' only minutes came in the fourth quarter in blowout run. Now, I guess the big point here is, yes, those minutes were subbing in for Brook Lopez, but Robin Lopez got the backup center minutes in the first quarter. He subbed in directly for Brook Lopez and out for him in the second quarter and in the third quarter. So he was the immediate backup center in all 3 quarters, and then the game was just wildly out of control, so he didn't come back in.
Look, I have him in for 18, and at 3K, he's still going to get into some lineups for me.
I could drop his minutes down and still get some too.
At 16% ownership, like I'm a little nervous. I think they can just sort of do whatever they want, and it makes me uneasy. Like, maybe they just give DJ Wilson more minutes. Maybe Marvin Williams does play more at the 5. Maybe Ersan Ilyasova, or whatever fake name that he apparently was before, per those tweets. Maybe he just picks up a little bit of extra run. I just don't know what to do with it, and this doesn't feel like a spot where I want to guess if everybody is already on Robin Lopez. I would rather lose today being wrong about Robin Lopez than like guessing that and then he plays 12 minutes.
Well, he's not going to play 12 minutes.
I don't trust anything for this team. They might beat Washington by 800.
Let me at least explain. He played 15 and 18 minutes in his last 2 games. Those are the 2 games. I
agree. He's not going to play 12 minutes.
Okay, fine. 15. Yeah, he'll play 13. No, those are the 2 games that Marvin Williams was active from Milwaukee. So Robin Lopez played 15 and 18 minutes respectively. 18 minutes in the second game where Williams actually played 19. Brook Lopez in those games played 24 and 25. So even if you were to just take 10 of Brook Lopez minutes on the 15-minute game, or 8 or 6 or even like 5 from last time, you're still getting between 23 and 25 minutes.
We've been doing this show for 55 minutes. This is game 3.
Yeah, well, fortunately, and I'm serious, I say this a lot, there are a couple games coming up, one specifically that we might spend 2 minutes on.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure. All right, let's sum it up.
This Brook Lopez thing is actually or Robin Lopez, it's actually pretty important for this slate.
Oh, for 100%. Look, ultimately, I expect to have like 10 to 15% of Robin Lopez on DraftKings. I think I'll be right around where the field is now.
Fair enough. Yeah, I like him a little more. Well, a lot more than you, but that's also because I have him projected for more minutes.
If I give him 22 minutes, I feel like I would have him in like 70% of my lineups.
Yeah, probably. At 25 minutes, I'm going to get quite a bit.
Yes, you are. Brooklyn Nets, Orlando Magic. Nets are 3-point favorites at home against Orlando. Spencer Dinwiddie, 26% owned on Fanduel, 18 on DK. LeVert, Taurean Prince, Joe Harris, all in like the teens-ish area. I'm not as enamored with this team. Highest ranked guy is 26th on DraftKings. Highest individual position rank on FanDuel is LeVert, 7th on FanDuel. So, like, I like a little bit of Dinwiddie and LeVert on FD, but I don't get the sense that I'm going to be getting a lot of Brooklyn. Pace down spot. Playing Orlando just seems like a slog. So this is not really a game for me in DFS.
Okay. It's exact game I was saying I'm not interested in.
Perfect. I really don't have, like, I have Dinwiddie 38th on DraftKings. Meh. LeVert 42nd. Joe Harris 37. I'm just not a good fantasy game.
It's not, and we've just spent time talking about 3 games in which they're not abundant with fantasy value, but there's a lot of good spots in those games. You can't really say the same for this one. LeVert at 7,300,
6,500 on FanDuel too, by the way,
and that's reasonable. They blew out the Hornets the other day. The good thing about LeVert right now is you have to be projecting him for around like 34 minutes.
Yeah, I gave him 33.
Okay, fair enough. 30. I have him 34, but if that's the case, I'm more than willing to at least entertain the idea. But it's number one, the matchup is subpar. It has the lowest total on the slate by 11 points. It's at 212.5. The one argument you could make is that it should be competitive, but ultimately you have the Magic with the lowest implied total on the slate, and Brooklyn is tied with the Suns for third lowest. It's not a good game.
No, it is not. I'm just not going to have much here. And I'm not going to have much on the Orlando side either. Vooch on DK at 11% is the highest owned guy. I like him a little bit more on FanDuel than I do on DK. I don't have anybody else in my DraftKings player pool, and he's 49th. I do like him for $38 on Yahoo, but ultimately I'm avoiding the Magic with the lowest implied total on the slate, and I'm just avoiding this game.
Yep. I like the Magic less than I like Brooklyn, so that should tell you all you need to know.
Perfect. So now that we hit the midway point, an hour in, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when we go live. Big day today. But first, free content. NBA lineup builder and NHL ownership are free. I will have office hours, so I'm going to be in the office hours channel today at 1 p.m. taking questions. No video today, just going to do the chat. Didn't really have a topic to hit on, so we'll just take whatever questions you want to hit me with today in office hours. If you're a premium sub, be in that channel at 1 p.m. At 3 p.m. Eastern, Ben Rasa, Sal Vetri, and Jeff Ulrich will do the first look show for this week's PGA contest. Jake will have the NHL strategy show at 4. Alex Baker will have his game plan stream at 4 as well. That is behind the paywall. Lofty will be back at 5 p.m. with Adam for the deeper dive, and I will be back at 6 p.m. Eastern with Chris Spags for Live Before Lock. It's a full plate today, guys.
Sure is. Got a lot coming down the pike.
Yes, we do. So once again, hit that like button. Where are we at on likes? 93 likes, 650 people. It's not enough. Let's get to 125 pretty quickly.
Well, hey, if you eat a chip and kill yourself on stream, everyone will like the video. So appreciate you guys.
Yeah, no. I deserve another one for that after sacrificing my butthole.
Yeah, I deserve more than you do. I didn't even have to do it.
You deserve less. You should have never done that. You deserve everything that came to you.
Oh, that's great. My wife was watching it and she's like, he's funny. So I shouldn't have told you that because, it'll inflate things. Hopefully just your ego.
Yeah, I don't think they can get much bigger.
But she's like, wow, he's pretty funny.
I mean,
I
she's
was
spot
like, yeah,
on.
he's a jerk off.
That's also true. What about my
When
look?
I said something to the extent of like, hey, maybe this will just make you stronger, and you're like, yeah, I don't see that happening.
Houston Rockets, New York Knicks. Rockets 14-point favorites at home against New York. Should not come as any surprise that the Rockets should smack them here. I gave Harden and Westbrook 36 minutes. I didn't go to their normal north of 36. We've got Harden at 25% owned. Russell Westbrook around 25% owned. Robert Covington, 15. Eric Gordon on DraftKings at 3,700. I think we probably need to look at a little bit. Ultimately, I like Harden a little bit more than I like Westbrook on FanDuel, but I don't get the sense that I would get to either of them a lot. I like Harden more than Westbrook on DK as well. Again, I don't think that I would get to either one of them a lot. Eric Gordon on DK at 3,700 is probably the guy that I would get to the most, but I don't think that I'm going to get a lot of exposure to Houston. I want to, but the prices are a little bit prohibitive.
I want to ask you something from a betting perspective because I think it'll shed some light on this game from a DFS angle. So normally I'm not really keen on laying 14.5 points for any team. I feel like I would be willing to lay 14.5 with Houston in this particular spot today. That says a lot.
That's fair. I get it.
You see what I'm saying though? Like it really does feel like a bloodbath is about to ensue.
Yeah. The Knicks are bad.
Yeah. And hey, in order to do that, players like Harden and Westbrook still need to score.
Yeah.
They still need to do what they're doing. But I thought you'd find this interesting. I mentioned it on Sirius yesterday, which, by the way, Sirius 210 XM87, Awesome Radio, 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday. Having a lot of fun, bringing on a bunch of guests and making a day of it. Well, a couple hours. But anyway, check this out. So since Capella got hurt and traded, right, one and the same, they are 7-2. They lead the league in 3-point shooting with 48 per game. That's 7 more than the next closest team. They're dead last in rebound rate, yet they keep beating up on teams that have the likes of Rudy Gobert at center.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? They keep beating up on teams that have big centers that everyone's like, well, man, they should be able to dominate this Houston team. The Rockets are allowing the 4th most points in the paint over that span. They're scoring the 3rd fewest points in the paint. This is totally 100% unorthodox basketball. This is even different than what the Warriors were doing with that small ball run and gun style. You know what I mean? Because they're running out guys like Tucker and Covington at the 5. They're dead last in rebounding, dead last. Yeah. But Westbrook's averaging almost 24 drives per game because they're spacing the floor so well. They go to trap James Harden. He kicks it out to a McLemore or a Tucker or a House, all of them shooting 43% or higher from 3 since Capella went down. Like if that continues, and if you put one guy on Harden, he's just gonna kill you. Opponents can't go into this and play their normal style of defense. No. They can't do it. And you know what's crazy? They can't play their normal style of offense either, because if Houston's knocking down these threes, you can't just be posting up your big man and getting him layups.
No, it's going to
3 counts more than 2.
Yeah, Julius Randle doing drop steps on the block is not going to help them at all.
No,
when they're just getting hit with a barrage of threes.
So this all leads me to what I want to ask you. I'm going to ask you from a betting angle.
Yeah.
Does New York either A, have the perimeter defense to slow Houston's 3-point shooting down, or B, do they have the 3-point shooting offensively to combat this and stay within single digits?
No, I mean, the Knicks' best shot here is that the Rockets just miss
exactly.
Yeah.
Like clank wide open threes.
Yep. That's their shot. Happens. I mean, we've seen it happen before. But I'm a big fan of the Rockets here. I just don't know how much I'm going to get from a DFS perspective because the salaries are a hair too high, I think.
Yeah, I'm concerned that this game is not competitive from the jump.
Thoughts on Julius Randle? 20-something% ownership on FanDuel and DK. I have him as my third power forward on FanDuel, so I'm a little interested there, but that is it. I don't want anybody else in this game other than Randall on FanDuel, and even that is not exactly appealing.
So it goes back to what I was saying. If Mike Miller is going to be content with Julius Randle, posting up and playing like bully ball against this team, number one, they're going to lose by a lot, but he probably will get a lot of easy buckets. So it's essentially like, this is a catch-22, Josh. If they play that style of basketball, for the amount of time Randall's out there, he's probably going to do well. But it's also going to result in a monster blowout because there's no way Julius Randle posting up on every possession is going to keep them anywhere close to competitive.
It's certainly not. Should be able to get a couple boards, but other than that, it's really hard to think that they're going to be able to do anything here.
Yeah. What a weird style of play, though, this Houston team's doing right now, isn't it? Really unique.
I love it.
Do you?
Yeah.
They're just bombing guys, teams off the court.
Anything else in this game?
No.
Dallas Mavericks, Minnesota Timberwolves. Mavs 12.5 point favorites at home against the Wolves. Wolves should have D'Angelo Russell back for this one. We'll start on the Dallas side. Pace up spot. This is basically one guy or 1.5 guys for me. Luka is 9,800 on FanDuel, 38% owned. Just play him. That price is stupid. 10-5 on DraftKings. Again, just play him. I like him as well. Porzingis looks okay. 8,800 on FanDuel, 8,100 on DraftKings. Under 10% ownership. So I would like to just get a little bit north of that Porzingis ownership either way. He's been playing really well as of late. I don't really want anything else from Dallas. So talk to me about Luka and Zinger.
Okay. By the way, I like Minnesota to cover in this game.
Interesting.
At 14. Yeah. Dallas really underwhelming team at home this season. And I mean, it's a DFS show, but it's all tied in. I do think they cover. The Dallas Mavericks, what are you willing to pay for them is really the big question here. Are you willing? So you have Harden, Trae Young, Doncic, Westbrook, all of those guys at the point guard position. I mean, I'm a lot less worried about a blowout here than I am in Houston. A lot less worried. It's not to say it can't happen. It definitely can. But with D'Angelo Russell expected back on the court, I'm far less concerned about this. Now, I'll say, first of all, that Kristaps Porzingis, with where you've got him coming in at on his price point on DraftKings at 8,100, I don't think you need to get there. But I guess well, you know what? Would you rather have Porzingis or Julius Randle? Because you said you had Randle 3 at the power forward position.
Well, okay, so I have Randle ranked ahead of Porzingis, but if Porzingis is getting 4% ownership on FanDuel, and Randle's in the 20s, then it's Porzingis in the GPP.
Okay.
That's just, they're really, really close. So having one of them be 20 and the other be 4 is why.
I really like Doncic here, though. And one of the reasons, believe it or not, is the fact that Gorgie Jang is no longer in Minnesota actually plays a pretty significant role. Their defense was really good with Karl Anthony Towns off the floor for those, 15 games or whatever that he missed. Like, very good. They had a top 3 defense over that span. Now you've got guys like Naz Reid and James Johnson occupying the minutes at the 5. Maybe Amari Spellman slips in for a few. That's, to me, something that is well worth exploiting. I think you can expect Doncic to get to the rim, and I'm not at all worried about their perimeter defense either. So Doncic is somebody to me that stands out as a very good play today. I do like him a lot.
23% ownership is interesting there, at least on DK.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit higher than I would prefer, but James Harden's at 25%, and I'd rather have Doncic over Harden. Also, keep in mind, Josh, that right now Giannis is at 22, Doncic's 23, Harden 24, Westbrook 21. There's not a lot of separation here. The the big time separation between all of these guys is Trae Young.
Trae Young at 5% and everybody else at the top being in the 20s is
crazy.
Super interesting.
It is crazy.
I expect to be pretty concentrated on Giannis, Harden, and Luka. Embiid at 9,500 just doesn't count.
No, it doesn't. 10K plus guys, yeah.
Yeah, Dallas is just wildly underwhelming outside of those top two. Minnesota side, I like a lot more than the public does. D'Angelo Russell, 8,600 on FanDuel, 8,700 on DraftKings, and 1.35x multiplier on SuperDraft. Love him there. I don't know why he's not getting more ownership. This feels like a really good spot to get D'Angelo Russell.
I think a lot of it's just based on the salary. I mean, he seems on DraftKings a little bit pricey, but I guess you feel differently.
I have him 14th
overall.
Yeah.
Like, I guess the one of the issues too would be if you're concentrated on Harden, Doncic, Giannis. Sure, you can jam Russell into some of those lineups, but you're likely also going to have a ton of Embiid there.
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems a little bit more difficult for me to get to. What do you like about Russell today? Just the fact that everyone else, like Towns, is out, and
yeah, I mean it's just his team. I'm not really worried about Dallas's defense. 2% worse than average over their last 15 games from a fantasy perspective. 110.75 as an implied total isn't exactly exciting, but if this game stays close, I'd be very surprised if it wasn't because D'Angelo Russell was involved.
Fair enough. Yeah, similar to what I was saying about Bradley Beal. Not that I think that stays close, but yeah, there's something to be said for that, sure.
And then Malik Beasley's 5,600 on FanDuel. I'm going to have a lot, and significantly more than the 6% we have him projected for.
Yeah, no question. No question. He's their second scoring option right now, for sure. The spot that I find interesting on Sirius yesterday, during the DFS segment, I spent a while breaking this down. I'll take a quick second to do it now. The center position. I was advocating for going with a lot of James Johnson at a discount over Naz Reid for one simple reason. Naz Reid was chalk, or at least he was going to be chalk. I didn't see what the final numbers were.
Mm-hmm.
He's averaging 7.2 fouls per 36. 7.2 fouls per 36. That's an insanely high number. Okay. That's outrageous. And it came to fruition yesterday. I've said it. I'm not in the business of projecting foul trouble, but in a case like Naz Reid, I have no problem doing it. In the 3 games that Towns has missed recently, he has 5, 5, and 5 personal fouls. He's lost minutes in those games in all 3 of those games.
Yeah.
So he ends up only playing 22 minutes. James Johnson ends up playing 27 minutes. But now their price points are coming up to where it might not really matter that much, and it cancels both of them out. Yesterday, it was different. Naz Reid was 55, but you had James Johnson weighing in at 4,900, sub 5K. He's 5K now. Naz Reid's 58. They're on a second of a back-to-back on the road. Like I said, I still think they cover, but on an 8-gamer, I'm not sure you need to get to either of those. If you are, though, I have no problem going Johnson over Reid if Reid starts.
Yeah, I'm not really interested in either on DraftKings.
Right.
I have a little bit of interest in Naz Reid on FanDuel, but the prices are now where I'm not super concerned with them.
Yep.
Favorite play in this game?
Doncic. It's Luka for me.
It's probably Russell for me.
Yeah.
Given his ownership, yeah.
Okay.
And trust me,
interesting.
I am not the person to be giving D'Angelo Russell praise.
No, I know you're not. I will say too, though, it is a very interesting spot for Luka, or I'm sorry, for Kristaps Porzingis. Naz Reid's 6'9", James Johnson's 6'7". So number one, who's going to be able to close out on Porzingis from beyond the arc, and who's going to be able to slow him down around the basket? I don't know if they're going to have any answers for him at all. If he's going to come in at virtually no ownership, he becomes a very compelling option at low 8K price point.
He certainly does. You wouldn't be surprised at all to see Kristaps Porzingis go north of 50 in this one.
Let's see what his scoring prop is. Oh, we don't have any, at least not on DraftKings yet.
21.5, 9.5 boards.
21.5, 9.5. Huh. All right.
There you go. 2 to go, guys. 2 to go.
Solid.
An hour and 15 minutes in.
Well, we're through 6 games, aren't
we? You say that like that's good timing.
It's phenomenal, I thought.
I'm not mad about it. Utah Jazz, Phoenix Suns. Jazz 8-point favorites at home against Phoenix. Jazz back to full strength. Going to be hard to not have some Jazz guys in your lineup. Rudy Gobert around 20% owned. Donovan Mitchell in the teens. Mike Conley pretty chalky on DraftKings at 5,300, 16% owned. Boyan at 21% on FanDuel. Joe Ingles getting a little bit of love. I like Conley the most here, but I'm going to have exposure to all 5 main dudes from the Jazz. Probably not going to get to Jordan Clarkson with Conley in, but I'm going to be looking at Conley. Gobert, Mitchell, Boyan, and Ingles are all pretty similar on DraftKings. I'd be more likely to get to Gobert at center on FanDuel. Mitchell at 7K looks pretty good. But ultimately, I just really like Utah today.
I think I've been less enamored with them than most people have recently. Watching a lot of Utah from betting against them, they have not been playing solid basketball. Yeah, you could look at a couple of games that they've pulled out victories in, and sure, like they went on a bit of a win streak there, but there are just some games that are really concerning to me. And like that San Antonio game where a lot of them were chalky, man, Mitchell was brutal. Gobert was really the only guy that did anything worth talking about. And of course, Royce O'Neal had a big game. The problem is you have to keep going back to them. Even if you don't want to go back to them, you don't have, unfortunately, like kind of like Josh Richardson, you're kind of forced into it. Rudy Gobert is $7,900 on DraftKings. He's sub 8K against Phoenix. Donovan Mitchell, 7,500 against Phoenix. By the way, though, Phoenix middle of the road defense, they actually haven't been atrocious. Your hand is kind of forced here. Fortunately, Jordan Clarkson's price has come up to a level where you're not getting to him. And I don't think Donovan Mitchell is a must play at all.
No.
My favorite play here would actually be Rudy Gobert. And I think I probably still have a little bit of less interest than you do today. Than you do today and did last time, especially with Mike Conley back.
Yeah, and like Conley will be the guy that I get a lot of on DK at 50.
He's probably my favorite along with Gobert because of that price. Yeah.
On FanDuel, it's just going to be like a shotgun spray of 15% across the board. I'll pretty much just have a Jazz guy in everything.
Buckshot.
Birdshot. After that, guns Jamaican. Buckshot, buckshot, buckshot.
Yeah, I'm not finishing that line.
I can't picture it.
You don't worry about it.
Okay.
There's one word. Never mind. Go ahead.
Fair enough. Oh, never mind. I have unrelated stuff for you, but it doesn't even need to be on this stream. Ultimately, it's hard to not like Utah here, at least a little bit. Phoenix, on the other hand.
I agree. Utah, I'm sorry. Gobert and Conley are the two guys I think are priced affordably. I don't really feel like getting too much Mitchell today. Bogdanovich, Ingles, those guys, and I guess it's whatever. Like you said, have really spread out exposure with not much of any of them. But Conley, DraftKings is forcing your hand along with, to some extent, Rudy Gobert. Yeah.
Phoenix has Kelly Oubre at 20% owned on FanDuel. That is mostly position-based. Devin Booker at 11 on DraftKings. No one else in double digits. I have Booker 35th on DK. I am not really interested on the Suns on DraftKings. On FanDuel, it's basically just Oubre for me. If I get to like 5% of Rubio, Booker, or Ayton, it's possible. But Kelly Oubre on FanDuel is the only guy that I'm interested in. And with his ownership where it is, I'm not exactly coming with any new knowledge. Do you want to do anything with the Suns?
No, I don't at all. DeAndre Ayton's coming off a monster game. Might have been the best game of his career. Maybe not the best because he did the same thing a couple days ago. he had 28 and 19 in both of those, but he had a couple more stocks in the last one.
Okay.
He just looked really good against Chicago this last time out.
Sure.
Shot 12 for 20. Very solid. You're seeing some huge games from him right now, like really good games from Ayton. And it's still not a spot I want to pay for in this matchup against Gobert. The Suns don't have the ability to space things out like Houston does, to where you might open things up for your big man a little bit because Houston doesn't use a big man. Phoenix is the exact type of matchup that Utah can exploit defensively.
No doubt about it. God, the idea of watching a Jazz Suns game is really unappealing, and I don't know why.
It is, and I'll somehow end up watching it.
Right, like it shouldn't be. There's a lot of talent stretched between these two teams. Yep. But for some reason, I just wouldn't want to watch this game. I don't know.
I don't like watching Jazz games to begin with, but I always find myself watching them.
That makes one of us. You ready to close this one out?
You're asleep 2 hours before the game tips off.
That's very true. What I wanted to say was, so the wife and I are watching the show Yellowstone.
Phenomenal show. Absolutely love it. I'd like to go to Montana.
Anyway, one of the characters. Yeah, I do. One of the characters in the show got a new horse, and Katie is rode horses her entire life. She's very horse oriented. She's like, "Do you know what kind of horse that is?" And I guessed, and I didn't know. I wasn't right. And I was like, "I actually know horses." And she's like, "Why?" And I was like, "Well, they show the type."
Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah, I was like, "Well, in Red Dead Redemption, they showed like the type of horse, and there's like they have everything." And she's just like,
"Yes,
of course you know this."
That's awesome.
Else. Yeah,
dude, I
was
said
like,
the same thing,
and she's like, "No, it's not Palomino."
I told Justine the one day we were driving and like through some farmland. I said, never really cared much for horses. Now I have great respect and admiration for these beautiful beasts. She's like, why? Like, well, there's this video game.
She's like, okay, I've heard enough.
Yeah. I'll tell you, in that game, you best believe that if you fucked with my horse, I was coming for you.
Yes.
When I lost her late in the battle, that was a sad day.
That happened to me at like 1:00 in the morning. Katie wasn't home. I was not okay.
No.
I felt like I had owned that horse for my entire legitimate life.
Absolutely, it was your best friend. So you know what I did? I ran once I became John Marston. I ran back up that mountain into the blizzard, the snowy. I don't have a good descriptive word, but went up there, wrangled a new one, named him whatever it was, part 2.
Yeah.
And, made it happen, but it was never the same. It was never the same after losing her on that faithful day.
Pour a little water out here.
It's also sad that we're going to be 50 by the time the next Red Dead comes out.
Super true. We're just going to have to do it in a different way with hoopties in GTA or something.
I'll tell you what, I can't wait for the new GTA either. And I don't even really play video games. The only one I care about is anything Rockstar makes.
Yeah. Los Angeles Clippers, Memphis Grizzlies, 9-point favorites for the Clippers at home. Going to be hard to talk about the Clippers right now. Pat Beverly questionable, Paul George questionable. I put them both in because projecting out this rotation would have been impossible otherwise. For some reason, DraftKings decided to price Reggie Jackson at 6,100, so that's fun. Kawhi Leonard is the only guy in double digits for the Clips. I have no issue with it, but he's not going to be one of my favorites. He works positionally on Fanduel. On DraftKings, I'm not all that interested. I think Montrezl Harrell is worth a peek. 5,400 on DK, only 5% ownership, so I'd be willing to take that look. But we might not even get the news on Beverly or George. So to me, I feel a lot safer not going to this team. They have so many new bodies, so many different ways they could run out rotations that I'm not really comfortable grabbing a Clipper outside of Kawhi Leonard.
I was trying to figure out if the line was telling us anything. 9.5. But it's hard because the Grizzlies have have played pretty decent basketball, and the Clippers have struggled recently. They really have not looked that good. We just got a message in chat saying that they were just upgraded to probable. Did you see it?
Clippers. They're both questionable on the actual injury report from 8:30
Okay.
last night. So unless
someone
tweeted that specifically, they are questionable.
So we will go with...
We'll know more in 2.5 hours, where I expect them to both be questionable.
Either way, we'll assume for now that they're playing.
Yeah, like I said, I put them in.
I mean, let's see what we got. 8 games, 16 teams. This one, as the total relates to the others, we're at, hold on a second. We're at 233.
Yeah.
That's the third highest on the slate. 121.3 implied total for the Clippers. I think you mentioned that. That's one of the higher ones on this slate.
Yeah.
It just really depends on what happens with George and Beverly, because if both of them play, how much interest can you really have in this team individually?
I mean, they all become like 5%ers.
Exactly.
There's just so many. They have too many bodies. They're 2+ deep at every single position now of like legitimate NBA rotation talent.
Agreed. And I don't know how I get to Leonard here. He's been really good, and Memphis is not a particularly good defensive team. I think they rank middle of the road, 16th on the year. They play at a fast pace. So normally this would be a good matchup. They're a top 5 pace team in the league. But it's also a Clippers team where you're hard pressed to find anyone that stands out. And if you had to project it, you'd be like, all right, he gets 25 points, 50 fantasy points. Paul George gives you, 20 and 8, gives you maybe 39, 40. Lou Will comes off the bench, drops 18, 20 points, gives you 30 fantasy points. And Montrezl Harrell hopefully gets more minutes than Zubats and has a decent game himself. But there's no one where you're like, this matchup, you need to play them. They're going to dominate the game. They're going to dominate possessions and be a top option. I just don't see it.
Neither do I. And unfortunately, we have a lot to talk about now. So I couldn't stop getting weird dudes for Memphis popping up on contenders today. D'Anthony Melton, Josh Jackson. I was getting Gorgeous Dong at one point in time. Now that I see the ownership, makes sense. Ja Morant, double digits. Brandon Clark, 35% owned on Fanduel, 24 on DK. Dylan Brooks at 20. D'Anthony Melton at 16 on DraftKings. Josh Jackson in the teens. Gorgeous Dong, 17 on Fanduel, 29 on DraftKings. Jaren Jackson Jr. being out is creating a gigantic ripple effect of needing Memphis Grizzlies with low salaries. I have 8 Grizzlies in my player pool on FanDuel, all ranked 9th or higher on a per position basis. I have 3 Grizzlies in my top 10 on DK relative to salary. We got another one at Dylan Brooks at 12. Ja Morant and Joe Val in the 20s. Even Brandon Clark looks okay, although 5,500 is a tough price for me personally. I am going to have a lot of these Memphis guys, but it seems like the public is already there. So who actually stands out for you?
We need to talk about Joe Val first, if that's all right with you.
Absolutely.
20 minutes against Sacramento in a game that they never led, but clawed back into it and were competitive for every single quarter. Instead of Jonas Valanciunas being on the floor for that game, 20 minutes, despite playing 10 and a half minutes in the first quarter, what you saw in the second half was very, very interesting. So Valanciunas plays 5 minutes. And then you've got Brandon Clark that comes in, plays a long stretch there. Gorgie Jane comes in after that and plays 6 minutes. And then the closing lineup is Ja Morant, Dylan Brooks, D'Anthony Melton, Jaren Jackson, and Brandon Clark. Joe Val played 5 minutes in the half and did not return. So you say second of a back-to-back coming up, maybe this changes things. Sure, the game wasn't that competitive. Joe Val ends up playing 24 minutes. Probably would have played more if it wasn't a blowout, but I don't know how to feel about this. With Jaren Jackson Jr. out, how are we distributing these minutes between Joval, Brandon Clark, and Gorgie Jang? Well, let's do that first, because then I think we can get some clarity on the situation.
I gave Joval 27.
Mm-hmm.
I gave Brandon Clark 28.
Okay.
I gave Gorgeous Dong 18.
All right. Okay. And how many of those minutes do you have coming at center for Gorgie Jang?
All of them.
All of them?
Yeah, he's never a 4.
He's not, but I don't. Well, here's what I'm saying. Is there any way that he's alongside Joval at any point?
I would be shocked.
Okay.
Outside, if it's a minute or whatever, sure. I can't expect any sort of rotation with the two of them on the floor together. I don't know why they would want to do that, especially against the Clippers.
No, you certainly wouldn't think so. There's been some weird stuff though that I've seen with this rotation. Some weird stuff.
Sure.
But ultimately, there shouldn't be any way that. Okay, this is what I'm saying. If you have all of his minutes at center,
yeah,
which it makes the most sense, definitely makes the most sense, then that means you're only giving him backup center minutes behind Joval, and he doesn't have upside for more.
Yes.
I have him at, hold on one second here. I have him at 22 minutes. But if you have him at 18 and you have Joval at 27, why wouldn't you just give him all the backup center minutes?
Because I think that we can see Brandon Clark there as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Why? Okay. This is why I wanted to break it down. How are you seeing that? Because I'm assuming Brandon Clark gets big minutes at the 4.
Agreed. It's tricky. Like, it can just be,
Kyle
Anderson at the 4, or
it's very tricky because we've seen Gorgie Jang sub in for Joval and then Clark sub in for Joval.
Yeah,
it's been. But that's,
to be fair. I gave Brandon Clark 3 minutes at center. It's not like any sort of real rotation.
Okay, I'm giving.
I also have a couple additional minutes to distribute in this game where I'm not comfortable giving them to any individual player right now. So I gave Brandon Clark 25 minutes at power forward, 3 minutes at center, 18 minutes to Gorgeous Dong at center, 27 to Joval at center, obviously.
How many are you giving Clark at power forward?
25 right now. I have him at 28 total. I don't see any. Sense. I have no issue with that number being north of 30. But
yep, makes sense.
When I first did this run through at 6:30, I have nothing to compare anything that I'm doing to. And every single Memphis Grizzly was freaking out and popping up like crazy, to the point where I immediately have to think, okay, I have to pump the brakes until more information gets out in this game. Yeah. I would say that Brandon Clark getting north of 30 minutes is the most likely scenario. You could also see Kyle Anderson play a stupid amount of minutes.
It's just weird because Gorgie Jang and Joval were on the court together last time. So,
for how long?
About 4 minutes.
Really?
Yeah, that's why I brought it. No, I'm sorry. For 4 minutes. Yeah, that's why I brought it up.
I don't think they can do that against the Clippers.
You wouldn't think so. And this was against the Lakers, where at that same time you had Dwight Howard and James or LeBron and Anthony Davis out there. So that makes sense, right? That makes a lot more sense. I don't see it happening either, but it was just another kind of wrinkle that made things a little bit more difficult to evaluate.
Yeah. I would be very surprised if they could play 4 minutes together against the Clippers and not get just completely brutalized.
Right. I hear you. But even, if they did play 2 minutes together, that means that Gorgie Jang becomes that much more appealing.
So would you assume that Brandon Clark plays no minutes at the 5?
Correct. I have Gorgie Jang in this spot with Jaren Jackson. Okay, playing all the center. Let's do this. Actually, let's just take the second half from last game.
Sure.
Because Jaren Jackson got hurt at the end of the first half.
Sure.
So Joval starts. Gorgie Jang comes in at the 6-minute mark, plays through, and Joval was on the floor with him. That's where he was on the floor with him for 4 minutes. So those additional minutes were after Jaren Jackson left.
How many fouls did Brandon Clark have at that time? Do you know?
I can tell you. 0, 0, 1, 1.
Okay. I was curious to find out if your answer was about to be like 4.
Right. Well, then, right. Of course. Then, yeah, but even so, why not run like Josh Jackson if you had to, somebody, but you couldn't go small against the Lakers. So it makes sense. So then Brandon Clark.
Okay. That also helps the team that they were playing.
Exactly. Brandon Clark started the half, subs out after almost 6 minutes, comes back in for Joval, and closes it out, similar to like the whole Bielitsa and Giles thing you see all the time to start the half. And then it's Gorgie Jang, Josh Jackson, Tyus Jones, Brandon Clark, and Anderson. And then Clark overlaps again is on the floor for a couple minutes there with Joval. And Gorgie Jang comes in for Joval, finishes out the game. Brandon Clark also closed the game out. It was not that competitive at the time, but it's kind of all over the place. I would assume in this spot where they're going up against a smaller team that Jang plays the backup minutes at center and doesn't play with Joval. But it'd be interesting to see what happens.
So, what do you like then? What is standing out to you? Because I would expect Gorgie Jang to be crazy value for you.
Correct. When I said that Robin Lopez was one of the top values and there was someone ahead of him, right now I have Gorgie Jang ahead of him.
Okay.
Because I have Gorgie Jang at 22 minutes and Joval at 26.
Okay.
22 minutes at 3,400 is gonna pop up for me.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to pop up a lot for me, which I don't love.
Well, maybe you're right. Maybe he only plays 18 minutes, but
I mean, even if he plays 20, like what is his upside in minutes in this game?
24, I'd say 25.
Okay.
Well, and the reason I say that is because Joval's minutes have been really erratic.
Yes.
So knowing that Joval is not just a lock to get minutes, here's another thing. Gorgie Jang against Sacramento, you would say, all right, well, maybe the Grizzlies just went small, right? And that's why they got rid of. That's why Taylor Jenkins didn't put Joval back on the floor. But I mean, Gorgie Jang's not exactly a James Johnson of centers. He's not exactly tiny, right? He's 6'10". So if that is the case, now you're talking about a Clippers team where teams struggle sometimes. The Clippers interior defense is not very good, but if they're running you off the court because your center can't hang and Gorgie Jang's dominating just based on his energy, which you see a lot, it's possible that Taylor Jenkins does pull Joval out and he only plays 22 minutes again.
Wouldn't shock me.
So I don't know, man. That's all I got.
If I give Gorgie Jang 21 minutes, he's my number one play on DraftKings.
And that's like I said, that's why he's my number one right now because I have him at 22.
Yeah.
You could even put him at 21, like you said, and give Joval 27.
Yeah. If I do that, Gorgie Jang is number one on Fanduel or on DraftKings. Becomes very, very high on Fanduel at 3,600.
Let me ask you something.
I'm not sure I love the Brandon Clark play, regardless of how many minutes we expect him to play at 5,500.
Is the reason you're giving Clark some minutes at the 5 so you don't have to give Gorgie Jang those minutes, or do you think they're that Brandon Clark actually will get those minutes. Do you know what I'm saying?
I think that he can play a few minutes at the 5 in this particular matchup, given the way the Clippers are set up. Like, I don't see a problem with Brandon Clark having to be on Montrezl Harrell for 2 or 3 minutes.
And I mean, who's your backup 4 here? Is Josh Jackson getting all the backup 4 minutes?
I mean, depends on how you classify Kyle Anderson. I mean, Kyle Anderson is sort of like 4 positions in one.
Yeah.
Like, I gave Kyle Anderson the minutes at the 4, but like when I start giving out minutes at the 2, 3, 4, that's just kind of like, these guys are definitely not point guards or centers.
Right. Oh, so yeah, for sure.
I don't pay too much attention to like what goes in the 3, 4 spots.
Jaren Jackson missed the game on the 31st of January.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Gorgui Dieng wasn't there yet.
Sure.
But I'm wondering if it sheds any light on. They got crushed by New Orleans too, so that's a tough one to really put much stock into. But Jay Crowder actually came in and got the backup 5 minutes.
Okay. So that means anybody can do it.
Exactly. And he's not there anymore.
No, he's not. No.
Also, keep in mind, Gorgui Dieng did play 21 minutes last game.
He did. I just, like, oh, God, if I run a crunch and get 60% Gorgui Dieng here, like, that is a really uncomfortable scenario to me.
No question.
For a guy that is not going to start and is no guarantee to play any sort of real rotation minutes.
I think he's at least getting. I think he's pretty much locked into at least 18.
You would think.
Maybe I'm wearing rose-colored glasses. Maybe I'm too optimistic here, but
Look, you would expect it, but I think all bets are off with Jaren Jackson Jr. out. Like, they could really just want to give Clark a real test.
It's possible. But also keep in mind that Jaren Jackson Jr. was playing 30 plus minutes every single night.
Yeah.
Right. Every night you're getting that from Jaren Jackson, and Brandon Clark was already playing between 23 and 25 minutes.
Yeah.
So how much of that let's just assume he plays 35 minutes. You're still left with, if Jackson's been playing 33, you're still left with 22 to 23 minutes that are voided there.
It's going to be great when we find out that Joval just plays 21 minutes and
or Joval plays 38 minutes.
Yuta Watanabe plays 20 minutes or something stupid.
Jordan Bell gets back in the rotation.
Right. Actually, he hasn't even played for them.
No. Right, so gets in the rotation.
Yeah. I'm really intrigued by this situation for Memphis, especially because of the way that their ownership is coming in.
It could be the pivot, the deciding factor between having an amazing night and getting smoked.
Yep. I like Ja quite a bit for 6,200 on Fanduel. We haven't really touched on that. And I think Dylan Brooks is kind of just safe regardless.
That makes sense. I'm not huge on it. By the way, the reason you and I just spent so much time breaking that down is because when you have a minimum salary guy that's averaging 1.21 DraftKings points per minute, if he plays like 22 minutes, there is quite a bit of upside there.
There's there's 8 guys in double digits in ownership, and their 1A or 1B best player is out and not playing 30 minutes. Like, this is the team that needs us to talk about them the most.
Yep. You say you do like Ja Morant here, huh?
FanDuel 6,200.
That's too cheap.
He's my number 3 point guard today.
DraftKings 6,800. I can stomach that, but I'm really not excited about it at all.
Agreed. He ranks 22nd for me.
Dylan Brooks, nah. You want to talk about someone that is plummeted back down to earth? That's Brooks, but it is a buy low position where you're getting him much cheaper than he's been recently. This guy was up north of 6K not long ago.
Yeah.
He's shooting poorly, but he's still shooting a lot. Yeah. I could see there being reason to get there, but also don't be surprised if he ends up with another brutal game, because he really has struggled from the field really badly.
0.83 FanDuel points per minute over his last 30 days.
Honestly, better than I thought.
Those minutes are secure, though, and could potentially soak up a couple extra. Who knows? Depending on how they slide up and down the positional spectrum, but be happy to get there. Any Melton for you? He's getting a little bit of love on DK, 16% owned, or Josh Jackson.
I don't know what to make of DeAnthony Melton. I really don't. But it seems like Jenkins has really become fond of this fella.
Yeah,
and he's getting the run. 3,900 on a day where you're going to see a ton of other players in a similar price point getting massive ownership. It might not be the worst pivot. What do you have him coming in at 15? He's still at 16% though. That's high.
Josh Jackson at 14 too. Do you have any like interest in either? Like, who do you like more, Melton or Josh Jackson?
Well, with Josh Jackson, I do think he gets the majority of backup center or backup minutes at the 4, and he's cheaper. And I think he plays the same amount of minutes, maybe a minute or two more than Melton. So Josh Jackson would be my preferred option here for those reasons. Yeah, for sure. And not the greatest per minute guy, but not bad either. If you were to give me, let's say, with Josh Jackson, if he were to get 25 minutes, I wouldn't actually be shocked.
Yeah, I gave him 24. We've been told by Easy Money DFS that we're overanalyzing this entire game for no reason. You're welcome to turn the stream off.
Yeah, but I don't know how. Most people appreciate that we spend this much time overanalyzing a game because no one else is willing to do it.
Apologies for not glossing over this.
Yeah, just play Gorgie Jang and fade Joval, money in the bank.
You're not getting your money's worth of the $0 this show costs.
We will gladly refund your misery.
Yeah, I won't. You should go eat. You should go eat a fire chip. Rank your Grizzlies.
I could spend 20 more minutes on this game, honestly. So I don't want to, but you could.
So could I. Rank your Grizzlies.
I'll do DraftKings.
Yes.
Gorgie Jang, assuming he plays 22 minutes. Brandon Clark, Josh Jackson.
Okay. And
then Melton, Morant. I really don't like Morant on DraftKings. I think it's fair to throw Dylan Brooks in there as well. What if as you can see, my approach here outside of Clark is to take the cheapest guys because I don't know what's going to happen.
Seems like a safe bet. Save some salary. On FanDuel, Gorgeous Dong, Ja Morant, Dylan Brooks, Brandon Clark, Josh Jackson, Joval, DeAnthony Melton, Kyle Anderson.
Okay.
So many.
Yeah, I'm
dudes.
not even ranking Kyle Anderson.
On FanDuel, I have to. He's a small forward. If you are a small forward on FanDuel and you play north of 20 minutes, you are in play.
Sure. 4,500 on DraftKings to me is unnecessary.
I completely agree. He is not in my player pool.
He shouldn't be.
All right, let's sum it up. Favorite plays on DraftKings today?
Oh, man. It's scary, but you got to go with a few of these Memphis players.
Yep. How can you go with the Memphis guys, man? You're talking about this Memphis team too much.
If you're going with Robin, if you think Robin Lopez is going to play minutes, like significant minutes, then he's a really good value. Just throwing out some cheap options here for you. Josh Richardson, clear top play. Joel Embiid, clear top option. And among the other high-priced guys, Luka Doncic and Giannis Antetokounmpo, very much in play. Brandon Clark. And I'll throw this one out because I'm not going to run through everybody. Sure. But if, in fact, Trae Young throughout the day continues to be projected for 5 or 4% ownership, while all of the other 10K plus guys are 20 plus, including Russell Westbrook, that seems like a very good buying opportunity to me.
Makes sense to me. It scares me, but the ownership percentages are something that I definitely want to pay attention to.
I mean, he could go out there and drop 75.
Yes,
he's seen him do it many times.
A lot.
And Ben Simmons being out can't be overstated.
Closing on out, FanDuel picks for me: Kendrick Nunn, Luka Doncic, Ja Morant at point guard, At shooting guard, it's going to be Josh Richardson, Malik Beasley, Dylan Brooks. Small forward is a big pile of yuck. Giannis, Boyan, Kelly Oubre, Josh Jackson. Power forward, also a big bag of yuck. Bam Adebayo. Whatever you want to do with Al Horford and Brandon Clark. Good luck with that ownership. Kawhi looks okay at 9,900. Just a really weak position today at power forward. And then at center, Joel Embiid at 10K, leading the charge. Happy to pay down to $100 above the minimum. Gorgeous dong. And then, if Rudy Gobert is going to be 20% owned at 8K, I would look to just get a little bit of unowned Joe Val or unowned Montrezl Harrell.
Good stuff. By the way, we had a question. I don't know if it was asked to us because we weren't mentioned, but I saw it in premium Slack chat. Do you set groups on Memphis? Yes, absolutely. You're setting groups. I don't want Jonas Valanciunas and Gorgie Jang in the same lineup. No. Not because of Joval or of Jang, but because if you're paying almost 7K for Valanciunas and he plays 26 minutes or 25 minutes, can he put up big numbers in that amount of minutes? Yes, but I'd rather not run the risk of that being the case. Brandon Clark and Josh Jackson, I don't necessarily think you have to set a group there because Jackson's cheap enough.
No, it'd be like a max 2 of, I'm just like speaking off the top of my head, Jackson, Melton. Look, Morant's going to close. Dylan Brooks is going to close.
Valanciunas is not guaranteed to close.
I would say Morant and Brooks are the only two people that are guaranteed to close this game.
I would put Clark pretty high up on the list of possibility that he would.
That's fair. So I would be looking. I think maybe just like one of Melton or Jackson is probably the real answer.
Okay.
And then definitely not Joe Val. Only one of Gorgeous Dong and Joe Val.
Why did Brandon Clark not play last time Jaren Jackson was out?
Was he suspended?
Was he?
I have no idea.
I don't know.
When was that?
31st of
January?
31st of January.
Left hip soreness.
Damn. Clark was out?
Yep.
With left hip soreness?
Yep.
So the only other game Jaren Jackson missed was the 4th of November. And Clark started and played 20 minutes. But that's so long ago, it means nothing.
Very true.
Cool.
1 hour and 52 minutes. Laffy and
we
I
just
are back
spent 30 minutes on the last game.
I know, it was fun. It was well worth it. Guys, please hit that like button. And that we would really, really appreciate. We have 750 people in here, 182 likes. Let's just get that number north of 200 before we get out of here. But please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when we go live. Tons of content coming up throughout the day, so be prepared for that. Laffy, anything else?
No, that's it, man. I was watching Hacksaw Ridge yesterday, though.
Okay.
Phenomenal movie, by the way.
Never saw it.
Really?
No.
And I realized that Sal Vetri's doppelganger is the main character in Hacksaw Ridge.
I'll have to take your word for it.
Incredible stuff.
I'll have to watch the movie, I guess.
Oh, it's a great movie. Do you like war movies?
Not really.
Love them. They're my favorite.
I cried in the theater at Pearl Harbor when I was in high school.
Terrible movie.
Yes.
Awful movie.
Yeah, for sure.
They turned it into a love story. What type of nonsense is that, huh?
Yeah, not great. That love story got me.
Did it?
When the chick showed up and like that nerdy dude was dead in like the middle.
I honestly don't even remember. I don't remember.
Crushed me, dude. Crushed me.
I'm about like Saving Private Ryan. Apocalypse Now is pretty wild. What's the one with Charlie Sheen? Oh man.
Major League.
Definitely not. Hacksaw Ridge is great though. Check that out.
There you go, guys.
Oh, by the way, that 1918 movie or 1917, whatever it was, the World War I movie.
Yeah.
Massively overrated.
Okay.
Because they filmed it all in one shot. Everyone was, creaming themselves because of it. But I was not impressed by that movie at all. It was cinematically, it looked nice, but just, I don't know, was not there.
Gene Siskel, everybody. Guys, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, notification bell. We are out of here. 219 likes. Appreciate you all. We'll talk to you again later.